Alright, well, we're ready to put our mahogany bird feeder on the lathe and turn the parts for it. This is the center section as we've seen so far. We're going to mount this on the lathe. What I'm going to do is I got a couple of plywood discs here. We're going to drill a hole and mount it on the screw chuck, turn a tenon on the end of it, and then we're going to fit that in there. And we'll do the same thing on the other end, and we'll hold this piece basically between centers. Since the grain runs long ways, it's spindle turning, so we can go ahead and use a spindle roughing gouge to clean that up. We'll turn it down to us just short of the splines that I glued in there. We'll turn a rabbet in on the one end, or a mortise on this end to fit the bottom. This is the bottom piece. I went ahead and glued a glue block onto the bottom that fits in my chuck. So what we'll do is we'll clean up this part first, put a recess in it, and then reverse mount it in the chuck with expansion mode, and then we'll go ahead and finish shaping it, turn off the glue block, and it'll be ready to glue to the bottom to the center section. This is the top piece. So what we're going to do is I drilled a 1/4-inch hole here. We're going to mount that on the screw chuck. Clean this little tenon up, clean this top piece up on the end. Square everything up, and we'll hold it. We'll reverse it and hold that in the chuck while we hollow this side out a little bit. We'll hollow it out a little bit, and then we'll put a recess in there that we can use the chuck in expansion mode to hold it. Then we'll switch it around and we'll final shape the top piece there. So sometimes the challenge is to figure out how to hold these things in the lathe. So I think we got a pretty good strategy. So we're going to go ahead and mount up these discs and turn a little tenon on the end that'll fit in the inside of our center section, and then we can get started. I have my little faceplate on the lathe that has a screw chuck built into it. It's kind of a handy little device. I think I got this one from Penn State Industries, but others have them as well. So it takes a 1/4-inch hole in the stock. So once you drill a 1/4-inch hole, we can go ahead and screw that onto the screw chuck. All right. Got my caliper set for the approximate inside diameter of the center section, so we're just going to go ahead and true this up a little bit and put a tenon on the end of it. Turning about 1500 RPM. Then on this outside edge, I'm just taking off the rough edges. Like when I'm cutting these, I like to taper the edge a little bit. That way, once I get the outside edge to fit, then I can make the rest of it the same size. But if you take it all down to the size you think it's going to be and you miss, then the whole thing's shot. So let's take the outside edge down here a little bit. That's going to be good, so we can take the rest of our tenon down to that diameter. All right, there we go. Don't have any slop or any play in it, and that part's good to go. Alright, well, we have our center section mounted between centers on our little jig that we turned. I put a couple of pieces of paper towel on this end. This one didn't seem to be quite as tight as the other one, so that tightened everything up. I got a cone center in the tailstock to fit into that 1/4-inch hole that we have there, and this one's still attached to the screw chuck. So I got the lathe set on its slowest speed. We're going to go ahead and stand back and turn it on and see what happens. Alright, looks like everything's running pretty well, so we'll turn it up a little bit. Alright, getting a little vibration, so we'll start right about there. So we're somewhere around 600 RPM or so. First thing I'm going to do is, I think, get rid of some of this on the end here with my parting tool, and then we'll start working on the center section. I have my calipers set so that they're just a little bit larger than in diameter than where those splines are. So if we turn it down to this diameter, we shouldn't expose any of the splines, so everything should be good. So let's give it a shot and see how we do. Alright, now we're going to take the roughing gouge and round this thing out. Alright, we got that rounded up. We're going to clean these edges up here a little bit with my parting tool. Alright, we're going to use our caliper to set a couple of diameters here. See how far off we are. Alright, that's good. We'll do another one here in the middle and one on the other end. Alright. Now it's just a matter of removing this wood here. Alright, well that's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and take it off of here and see how we did with the splines. Alright, so hopefully we got this on the camera there. We're turned down to just a little bit above the splines, which is where I wanted it to be. So that's looking pretty good. This is the part that's going to go into the base. And what I want to do is clean this piece up on the bottom, make it flush, and it's pretty good already. And then we're going to cut a little mortise on the inside here, and that's going to have a tenon on the bottom piece that'll fit up in there, and that's how we're going to glue it together. So I don't plan on doing any finishing on the inside of this piece. I'm not going to make it round or nothing. There's never going to be anything in there but bird food, so the birds don't care whether the inside's round or not. So right, it's really doesn't make any difference how what the width of this part is. We'll size the tenon to actually fit it. So I think I'm going to call. All right, we have our top piece mounted on the screw chuck and a faceplate. We're going to go ahead and knock off some of these sharp corners here with the bowl gouge. Okay, that's all I want to do with that right now. The thing we want to do is true up this piece down here that's going to go into the chuck. We just need to make it round, and we'll just go ahead and use a parting tool to do that. Alright, let's see how we're doing here. I think we're going to be good with that. Yeah. Alright, we'll go ahead and take this off and mount everything up the other. I'm going to go ahead and start hollowing out some of this center section. Okay, what we need to do now is make a recess in the center here that we can expand our chuck into when we turn this thing around. And then we also need to make a spot big enough so when we go ahead and put the center part of the bird feeder on there, that there's a lip for it to set on. And I want to leave plenty of room there because I don't want it to, as the wood swells or expands and contracts, I don't want it to lock itself on there. So this doesn't necessarily need to be a tight fit. So we just need to make something so that fits in there. So we're going to do that first. And then once we do that, we'll get back to finish shaping the inside. Use my little square ground scraper to make that in there. So. Alright, that's going to be good for expanding our jaws into that. So now we just need to make a groove here on the, or a rabbet here on the outside for our bird feeder center to fit in. I'll go a little deeper with this center one. Alright, let's see how we're doing with this this piece. Alright, so we'll just get rid of, we'll finish shaping up this inside here. And I think we'll use a round nose scraper for some of that. Alright, well I've reversed our lid in the chuck, got the chuck in expansion mode. We're going to go ahead and finish shaping the outside of it now. Give it a little speed here. That bowl guy's in serious need of some sharpening, so I think we'll switch to a scraper for now and finish working on that. Alright, well that's pretty much the shape I was going after. Well, I decided our lid looked a little too plain, so I went ahead and put a little decoration on it there. I'm going to do another one right down here someplace. Don't go too far down because the wood gets kind of thin, so let's put another one on there and see what it looks like. gave the top a couple of shadow lines or whatever, make it look not so plain. So, all right, I have the bottom piece chucked up in the 4-jaw chuck. I made a mark on the end. We want it to be about 8 inches in diameter. It's certainly not anywhere close to being even now, so we're going to take this bowl gouge. Hopefully we'll have better luck with it than we have. A little bit of speed here. Got some shaping to do on this anyway, so that'll be fine for now. Alright, what we need to do is clean up this side. I want to move the camera around so you get a better view of that. Alright, this is pretty flat, but we're just going to drag the scraper across it a couple of times and see if we can't flatten it up a little bit more before we turn our recess, and then we'll shape the outside here a little bit when we get done with that. I think we give it a little bit more speed now that we're up about, I don't know, 1200 RPM or so. A little bit too calm. Take our little square nose scraper and make us a recess. Alright, that'll be good. Alright. And we'll take our scraper now. Now I got the corner knocked off, I think I'll take the scraper and finish shaping this up. Okay, all I wanted was basically a round over on that bottom part. So I'm going to get the sandpaper and sand this up a little bit, and then we'll flip it around and do the other side. All right, well, I've reverse mounted our base of our bird feeder, and I have right here, I didn't really notice it that much when I was gluing the boards together, but right there's some pithy looking thing. I think it was part of a branch or something that was in the tree, and it's already kind of split right along that side there. So what we're going to do is we're going to shorten this up, and we're going to turn that, make a mark on there so we know about where we want to go. Alright, well, I'm going to keep going on this, and then I'll turn the camera back on once I get that piece cut off of there. This part's going to be our tendon that fits inside of our base. So once I get this cleaned up a little bit, then we might have to take the thickness down a little bit more to get to the size we want. But overall, we're in pretty good shape. So we'll go ahead and use that for the tendon. So let me unlock this, unlock the lathe, and get it back up to speed here. Get rid of this. Rest of that waste block. I'm going to use my calipers, and I don't think you can see it, but I'm going to use my calipers and set the inside diameter of our mortise that we turned. And once we get that, we can mark it on the bottom of our blank. That's pretty close. Okay. All right, let's mark this on here now. All right. Our little square nose scraper to remove the rest of this here. All right, that's getting better. We got a nice tight fit down there at the bottom, so that's good. I'm just going to use this little round nose scraper to put like a little tray in here to keep the bird food in it. I think that'll be good. We got a little flat spot out here for them to put their little feet on. We got a little spot in the middle where it'll hold our bird food in there, and we're good to go. Well, I cut some holes in the side of the bird feeder to let the bird seed out. I cut 4. Probably could have used just 2, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And then I went ahead, after I did that, I went ahead and epoxied the center section to the base. I didn't use the tight bond 2 or 3, based on a fairly small amount of glue surface with the with just these little areas here, so I went ahead and used some epoxy to hold that on there. What we're going to do now is we're going to run some wire up through it, through the top here, and then we're going to make a little loop for it to hang on. So I have an 1/8 inch hole drilled through here and through the top. So if we we'll get that up through there. Alright, now we'll feed it through the top as well. Okay. I also have this connector here that we're going to pass this through and make a loop on the top for to hang it on the bird feeder stand. And then all we got to do is flatten that out, and that'll hold the loop there. I'm just going to use this old thing, and I want to make sure I had a big enough hammer to take care of it, so I got this big hammer. So I'll come back once I get that done. Pounding on is probably not going to be an enjoyable experience. All right, well, we got the loop on the top of our wire for our bird feeder. I need to leave enough slack that you can move the lid out of the way to fill it, so we'll leave a little slack there. And then we're going to finish off we're going to connect the wire here at the bottom. What I plan on doing is just using a stapler, and we'll put a staple in, a couple of staples in there, and then fold it over, and then put another staple in it. So let's see if we can staple this on there. All right. There's one. Put another one on there. And we'll fold it back and staple both of them together. I don't think I need it going that deep, so we'll put. There we go. All right, now we can go ahead and cut this off. There we go. Well, that's how I made this mahogany bird feeder. I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I enjoyed making the project. I said I'm not going to put any finish on the bird feeder. We're just going to let the mahogany weather naturally, and we'll see how well it does when it's exposed to nature. So, only thing left to do is to fill it up with some bird food and put it out in the back and see if we get any fine feathered friends that come along for a meal. So, again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.